pretty shoddy here.
Cool. This is all being, in addition to streamed, recorded, by the way, guys. So if you want to go back and just kind of like listen back through things, or listen back through any of the workshop portion of things as well, you can totally do that. The audio has been recording, hopefully.
The audio and the video have both been recording despite the internet problems. So.
Cool, yeah. We have a nice program that like buffers it and then re-records it and like however recorded just on the computer. So hopefully it'll come out nice in the full-on recording. Great, so welcome back, guys. Hopefully everyone has some cake served up as well if they want some. So the workshop portion of this, basically every cake we try to team up a workshop with the talking portion. So we have something useful to take away from it. And the idea behind Cake was really, once again, to provide really practical assistance and kind of specific advice. And the workshop is where we really try to distill down these broader ideas that we've been working with and make it work for people specifically. I really want to start playing around with workshops where we split off into groups, but I think that this one is probably not the one to start with that on, just because it is such a heavy topic, I guess. Does anyone feel like tossing the idea out? I don't know if you wanted to work on yours because you are so closely looking for funding and actually like workshop your idea. Awesome. Yeah. Why don't you introduce yourself and kind of talk a little bit about what you're working on? And we'll.
My name's Mark, and I'm hoping to open a fusion bathhouse, like Russian, Korean, Turkish. Because in Portland, so far they only have like this dry saunas that are heated by electric, and I want to do like the wood burning one with like the whole process, and like informing people of the culture behind different parts of the world's bathhouse rituals and whatnot, even like American, Indian. Sweat lodges.
Awesome.
And the closest one that I'm modeling it loosely off of is like in Seattle. And I also had one out in Pennsylvania. I think there's one in San Francisco and like 2 or 3 in New York City. It's like basically where they are.
That's awesome. And what kind of space are you looking for it, or like what's your grand vision for like where you want to set it up, or what it's like how many pools it's going to have, or what's your?
I found a place in industrial southeast that's since been leased, but I'm looking for about probably I think between 7,500 and 10,000 square feet of space, maybe 5,000 if I scale down a little bit.
Gotcha. And do you have an idea yet of like how much you're going to be looking for, or just know that it's going to be quite a bit to get it off the ground?
Luckily I have past like masonry experience and like friends with a lot of building experience, so I think we'll still need to get a contractor for sourcing materials and
signing off on things.
Yeah, signing off on things and stuff, but we do have a lot of free labor. But yeah, I'm estimating probably at least 100,000, if not more.
Yeah, just kind of like back of the envelope math. Yeah, totally. Great. So, yeah, let's launch right into this. And the goal of this worksheet, once again, we kind of talked about the, for lack of better names, I just put them right on here, active gram method and passive gram method of kind of building confidence and getting things done. There's also just sort of this checklist of sources for possible funding. And if you were to go through the like how Float On bootstrapped itself from beginning to where it is right now, yeah, you'd see nothing along the lines of loans or venture capital or anything like that, and all of them would be on here. And it would be personal assets, credit cards, and friends, early projects, free things, daily deal sites, and trade credit. And pretty much nothing aligned with causes, because we didn't at the beginning align with causes. That's more for future projects. But along here, pretty much everything except family, I think we ended up drawing on for money for raising it, which is kind of crazy. When I was going back through this, I was like, oh, we really did just hit up like almost every source that we had available to us. So going through, like let's start with, personal assets, credit cards. Those are things that you just know yourself, like whether or not you can draw assets on things. Friends and family, we'll call those things like early investment opportunities, I guess. We won't delve into too much like who those are, and the active and passive grant methods of this are going to kind of deal with that portion of it more, like people who you eventually want to raise money from, in addition to just other random businesses around, things like that. So let's hop over right to the, and you can kind of make your own check marks as you go along too for your own projects on what you think you'll be able to draw financing from, even a little bit. Like even if you're just pulling 500 from credit cards, you can kind of check that box. So let's go to an as-you-go view of things on this. So the nice thing is that for Bav's daily deal sites, you should definitely check off on that because you'll be able to like push a lot up front with that, which is really nice. I'm just going to ask if anyone put it in order. Trade credit, once again, it's one of those things just kind of you get to hit up as it comes along. It's a big enough thing that you'll probably get actually some nice trade credit on weird materials
like
and
tile.
Yeah, exactly, tile, yeah, things like that. Free things, decidedly, just start already like scouring the free things listings because building materials is one of those that you can definitely just start to stockpile. One of our owners is constructing his own vertical float tank right now, and yeah, like a lot of he just found like a ton of like free foot by foot like glass bricks that he's using to build one of the walls in the space. He found like a bunch of free tile in Vancouver that he drove his truck up to and like brought down to like tile the floor. Just like a lot of the building materials are just kind of reclaimed, which is awesome for that.
It's nice to promote that too, like if you had a website for your business and you can document what you're doing.
Right, I know, yeah, it tells a very good story
If it
too.
was as a return to your results, that's something again you can focus in on as far as a business advantage of. I can do this again and create a sustainable project then involve that in the city or something like that. Create a new if you want to franchise out, reproduce the same status.
Yeah, totally. Be like, hey, we can fund this on. Yeah, I mean that's the nice thing too about being able to do things on a shoestring budget is you like pull them along. You can say like, look, if we open up another location now, we know how to do things super cheap to get them started, which is an awesome thing to be able to tell people who are throwing their money in. It's like your money's gonna go a really long way because look at how far we went with nothing. Let's talk a little bit about early projects and also about aligning with causes, because I think that'll be like interesting routes for conversation for ones that aren't immediately obvious sources of money for you. Early projects, like other than actually having your full center up and running, what's kind of the, like, can you think of any alternatives to that or anything that you can do like on a really small scale? I mean, other than, once again, there's always the drill down to just like finding a mailing list of people that are interested, like that's the basic level, but
kind of toying with the idea of just building like a hut or whatever, just in my kind of like a side yard that my landlord sold to some guy, but he lives out of the country, so he's probably never going to come use it.
Yeah.
So I was thinking that, or like food cart style, like see if anyone would actually go to that.
Like a food cart style bath.
Like on wheels?
Yeah, just like one thing and like a cold tub right outside of it or something.
Are you familiar with the Oasis saunas?
No.
They like travel to different events, festivals, and things like that, and they have a one of those that kind of metal trailers, like airfoil, like the Airstream trailers, and they have a wood sauna in there, and they just go to different events and just set it up and then go with that. So that's something you could maybe talk to about the logistics, a sense of that.
Totally.
Another question was like, you said there's a space in San Francisco. There's what was the other places?
Seattle, like outside Philadelphia area.
Have you talked to them at all about their business?
No, not since getting this idea.
As you've been to the business. I thought that would be a good research. Just kind of check in with them and see what they're doing and kind of what their peak hours are and things like that.
And the writing reviews is a really good way to get people interested too. Like, as silly as a mailing list sounds, I think just going down and like talking to people who are like, hey, would you like to go to one of these bathhouses once we get like all started up? It's like, yeah. Absolutely. And getting those people who are interested is like really good. And then you can keep them posted actually like on what you're doing too. Like you don't need to wait until you're up and running. You can kind of be like, hey, I just found out that like water heats at a much more regulated temperature if you use like this form of kind of internal structure of the thing, and like let them like just like tell them all the nerdy things that you're learning. And then by the time you actually like open up, they know that you really know your stuff. You're not just like some fly-by-night Turkish bath. That's good. I really like the idea of building some small like little test ones in your side yard as well. Even to test different temperatures and stuff, because I know that that's a huge part of like the Turkish bath culture. Is just all the different, and like infusing the air with mint and all sorts of different crazy things that go into them too.
Yeah, like the wet sauna, like the one out near my home in Philadelphia, had just like weird packets of eucalyptus, but the one in Seattle has like actual trees that they switch out every hour, which I thought was really awesome.
That sounds cool.
Totally. What else besides building something? Can anyone think of some other way to kind of like take this grand vision of a Turkish bath and bring it down to a kind of small test project that can be done to prove some early hypotheses? Because I think that's a good one. So let's start with that, and you guys can keep your brains cranking on the background in that. So once we get the hut, sauna, the tub, whatever, built in your backyard with like a cold tub and a hot tub, or built in like a portable thing. What's the goal from there? Are we just trying to sell like tiny little access to it, small groups
try
and
Craigslist and maybe build a mailing list off of people that come out to something that weird, just to gauge like what normal people would do.
Yeah.
I was interested, you mentioned educating essentially the community about these practices or whatnot, and I'm thinking about this specifically because I recently went to a spa, a sauna 2 days ago, like a Finnish style sauna, and it was really interesting going there because there was a certain like etiquette and culture, and like I went with a friend who like knew what was up.
Yep.
There were a bunch of Russians there, and they knew what was up too, so like that was cool. But it was really interesting, and I will totally go back. I was like, oh my god, like this is something I did not know about before. But if I hadn't had a friend take me there, I wouldn't have really thought of it as a big thing. I would have been like, oh yeah, you join a gym, you go to sauna, it's not a big deal. And this one was special. So to some extent, you obviously have like a pretty clear vision of what your bathhouse would look like.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wonder how would you reach somebody like me who's like, I don't really know what's up. I mean, it sounds good when you say that, but I don't even really know what you're talking about. Frankly, I mean, I'd probably like it, but I wonder if there's like a way of bridging that, trying to get people interested in what you're doing by
Educating them.
Right. Yeah.
And what's the what do you want to educate them about, or what is the culture of the bathhouses that's really interesting to you?
Just the different like processes and I mean like
The procedures.
Yeah,
Like
like-
getting there.
Yeah, the ones around here I haven't seen like I guess Loyally and Clinton District goes into it a little bit, but I don't recall like Common Grounds giving as much information about it. And like when we went up to my friends and I went up to one in Seattle, they actually someone there was like, oh, if you stay in the cold tub for 90 seconds instead of just jumping in and getting right out, like the endorphins just go nuts. Like, and it's just like stuff like that. I guess like having a website while you're building, putting the processes up.
Yeah, there's probably certain, you're saying like the eucalyptus, and there's other certain essential oils and things that you can put into your body, infuse into your body through the hot water process, and then go with cold water and like sears your, like it just makes those things stick into your system. So.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff like don't eat a meal before you go, or else all the blood is like there in your stomach.
I'd like to suggest, it seems that since you're really focusing on the cultural aspect of it, and really education seems to be a really fundamental aspect of how to portray that message, perhaps getting a newsletter started to where you actually, you don't have to put the whole everything about a bathhouse, but you get a review, you get a, intertwined with your own personal research on bathhouses. You can like review other bathhouses, talk about different historical aspects of the bathhouse. But that's really, I think, a really great way that's very cost effective to get that information out and get people interested in it. And this is something that I've used MailChimp before. It's a really great tool.
love this so much that I'm interested in our city, more about it and see the photos and maybe like all that and donate to this like PDF or donate to this little booklet I've created, a little brochure, and then have that as something that's available as some reward that something you can get. Could be interested. If you have 100 people and you say it's like a $5 brochure, and of those 100 people, half of them, wanted that's $250, and you just do that regularly, build up more interest with people, and then as soon as you open up your business, you actually have probably people that are, devoted in some sense.
Well educated is what's
Well
going on.
educated, yeah.
Right, it's that old like you can either outspend or out educate the competition.
Tie in other like events like movie nights, showing movies like that's culturally significant, or like it doesn't have to just be related to bathhouses, right? Like you can have like some traditional like dinner or like something where people can stay around.
Coffee hour kind of thing. It's like silly, but I totally actually like that is actually a really good idea. I totally love it.
Turkish coffee tasting and some hookah, like a
make
hookah
it
night
an
or something.
experience.
Yeah, you can easily lead into doing special events for fundraising purposes with like every newsletter,
And partner up with other, I don't know,
So you go like,
coffee houses in Portland or something.
Even as far as saying things like talk about Breitenbush a lot, because maybe that's one of the ones that has a more community-oriented model. And saying, well, why would you go all the way to Breitenbush every time you need to go to a bathhouse or to like a warm hot springs environment? Just come over here and you get this community vibe, So.
I also think it makes sense to go to people who have an audience. I own Freedom. It's a public sewing house on Hawthorne, and Hawthorne is just full of stores that are selling clothing. And so I went into them and I was like, hey, you can sell more clothes if someone goes in and tries on something and they're like, hey, this doesn't fit, and you can be like, but if you go down the block, you can make it fit, and so that way you'll make money and I'll make a little bit of money as well. But I think like going into businesses that have an audience and saying, hey, as a business owner, I will totally give you a free experience at my backyard Turkish bath, and then you can, and then I'll give you coupons and you can tell your customers about this and they'll get 10% off, and that way you can educate the shop owner or the employees or whatever, and that way they'll get the full experience. And so then you can say, hey, this awesome dude gave me this like free experience and like you need to go. And because I know, and I'm sure it's this way with a lot of businesses, my return customers, we're friends, we're buddies, we talk about life, and so to be able I'd want to share that experience with them and be like, not only can you do this, but here's like 10% off or 15% off or whatever, like make sure you go there, and then you're making a little bit of money and taking just a tiny little bit of a cut on it because it's a coupon, but then they'll tell their friends, and like it's a good way to just get yourself out there.
Thinking like acupuncture, chiropractors,
Yeah, absolutely.
I was wondering too if there was a way to break down like $100,000 business plan so it's a little bit less daunting at first. Because it sounds like you have a really grand plan, which is awesome. I'm not saying like that won't ever come into being, but in terms of giving yourself a base to start from, if like $100,000 isn't immediately available, like I know, I don't know, like I was thinking of some Roman style baths that I've been to that just have like a caldarium and a tepidarium and a frigidarium, which are like essentially bath pools, which are super easy and don't sound nearly as complicated. Maybe there's some aspect of your larger vision that could get built first, and you'd be like, okay, this is a small sampling of what I have in store for you. As soon as like this gigantic awesome thing is realized, to keep people holding on and understanding what to expect from this thing that they probably have never experienced before.
That's good. I was also that it reminded me too that make sure to make a list, like the free things is not just for finding random things free, like also make a list of just what you think are the top 3 money sucks on your business. Whether it's like, fortunately you have the masonry experience, right? I'm sure just construction is going to be a huge one for startup costs, so like you're tossing in there. But think of the other ones too, and think of ways to get around that, like space. If you can find someone who has a big warehouse that's not being rented out because of the economy right now, who's willing to like get a huge tax write-off in addition to like grant money, or is willing to like go in with you on some of the equity for once it starts up, or One of our cakes coming up too is going to be on actually negotiating real estate deals with people and renting spaces or buying. Mainly on renting, not buying, but yeah, there's all kinds of things you can negotiate in terms of like they'll pay for some of the build out, like you don't have to pay for all of it. You can get a certain amount of time for free in order for you to build out the space before you start paying rent. There's lots of interesting ways you can string along that like first initial like series of rent payments as well. So yeah, just as much as figuring out how to scale back something, sometimes also figuring out what you can get for free really works too. Let's talk about causes. Like, can you actually associate this with like a greater cause other than just educating about Turkish baths? Like, is there something that can tie into that you could maybe like really start to get people a little more like geared up about getting into it and giving you money and like, oh yes, like I guess humanitarian. Like, is there anything like that can make people feel humanitarian throwing money into?
Yes,
Turkish
health benefits.
Long-term health benefits.
Well, community value.
And what about offering discounts for low-income families or something like that, like or giving like even like a free day for sliding scale? There's a.
One of my ideas.
I was going to suggest taking advantage of surveys, like surveying the district that you're interested in moving into. Not only is it a good way to get information from them, but it's also a good way to educate them about you and your idea.
And what do you mean survey?
Just like ask like a questionnaire to where it's like almost like pretty much like a little forward letter, but then like a one-page questionnaire about do you think this would be valuable for your area, or basically how they feel about a bathhouse and how they can you establish a need in the area is what you're really trying to go for. And also something to keep in mind, like I just came across this SBDC, which is like the charge that the city takes in for any type of development. And I know that in the central east side, it's like doubled recently because they're trying to build a light rail system and they're building another bridge to close the streetcar. But everything's doubled in this area because of that, which makes it way difficult for a small business. And that's an interesting dynamic, but it's not a limiting factor necessarily, depending on how well you can establish the need within the community too.
Even as silly as it sounds, like going door to door and just talking to people is like I did that with my tutoring business. I did that when we first moved in with Float On. Even like when we went down, we didn't actually like pursue that one too much. I think I went around like the block one time. We were going to expand that and just got like way too busy to go and talk to people personally.
Or even like maybe leaving like a flyer to get feedback at like coffee shops and libraries or something.
I don't know how legal it is, but when I first opened up my shop, I went around and I flyered people's cars that were around the area, and it's annoying.
Yeah,
it's annoying as anything, and like I said, I don't understand how it's legal. But it definitely brought a bunch of people into my shop. So
And then I stopped driving my car.
And also, can you fix these?
And I ripped my pants while I was driving.
I think actually that media is also surprisingly responsive. If you can actually create an idea around something, like say that if you notice there's a trend or there's a need and spin that, even if it's not built, it's a hut in your yard or whatever it is, that if they're lacking a story that day, they might just scoop it up.
it's so true. If you get in touch with people and you're just excited and you don't really have an angle, you're just like, hey, I live here and I'm doing something here and this is what I'm doing, I got a surprising amount of press off of that. I was like, I'm opening up a shop, I'm excited. And people were like, all right, cool, like we'll write about that, we'll tell other people about that. And I was like,
And the press doesn't know that like you don't have a ton of money either. Like you can just be like, I am opening up a shop, and then like if you don't, it's like tragic shop fails. It's like a classic twist on headlines. Media is a really good call. This is Kathleen, by the way. She runs PR for Float On. Awesome. Yeah, that's great. So I don't know. Nothing like other than making it sliding scale or making it more publicly accessible. Nothing is coming and the education aspect. I mean, maybe that's enough. Like lowering the cost for people who can't afford it and really educating people about the culture and the process behind it. Like maybe that is enough for some kind of interesting grant, or at least like looking into it with that angle and seeing what's out there that you might be able to snatch up for sure. Same with events too. I mean, like having a Turkish bathhouse in a neighborhood and making it neighborhood centric, even giving like a discount to those people is enough to like, yeah, throw these kinds of Turkish coffee tastings and different things, or even if you make something in your backyard, have people come sample it out, like change the temperatures and have them sample it out in different temperatures and get feedback on like what feels good, or like have them try some different combinations and be like gathering some data for your shop as well as getting them to. Plus, people love to contribute. Like early on, people would way rather be your guinea pigs than they would your customers. Like, and honestly, they're going to be anyway, so you might as well phrase it that way.
The other thing too, like the statement about like cross-pollinating too, the idea of coffee is a really big thing in Portland. So if you somehow like spun Turkish coffee into that, that's gonna generate an unknown.
That's true. Talk to me about that too. We have a connection to the Stumptown coffee roasters now.
And then also like the idea of hookahs, is the same thing. Portland really.
Oh, there's hookah shops all over the place.
So you might be able to get like free hookahs, like just on like a borrowing situation. Have like say like 10 hookahs donated to you for like an event from whatever like hookah shop for like this experience. Yeah, based on them, and each hookah has a different flavor, and then just get them during their own business or like at a lower cost. Bring a bunch of people that are interested in hookahs that maybe had no idea that they like like bathhouse experiences with the hookahs, but then also they love it, and then you have a crew of people that want to come for that.
Yeah, like
I was talking to Grant about this over the break, and when I opened my shop, I walked into a sewing shop and I was like, "Hey, I'm opening up a shop. Do you want to like somehow partner? Like, I don't know what I'm looking for, but like, what do you think?" And they were like, "Sure, we'll give you 4 sewing machines and a serger, and just tell people they should come to us." And I was like, "Excuse me?" And I literally like had this sense of like, as I'm driving away with like $2,000 worth of equipment in my car, I'm like, "Am I stealing this? Like, what's happening right now?" But like, and all I did was just go in with like a flyer for my opening and just a little bit of paperwork, and I was like, "Hey, I'm opening in a few weeks. What do you think?" And I left with $2,000 worth of stuff that I use every single day. That like I don't know how my shop would have in the first year without it. So it's totally worth just going in and being like, Turkish hookahs, what do you think? And like see what happens.
On that same vein, I was thinking of like if I can't find free towels, instead of talking to local towel companies and saying, "Do you want to sponsor this part of it?"
Yeah, definitely. I have this much space on my website with your name on it. Like, yeah, absolutely.
Totally. Great. Let's see. What time do we have right now?
8:05.
8:05? Cool. We'll probably wrap it up. A couple little things on just this last part. The last part is actually more self-explanatory than the little checklist, which I did want to make sure to go through a little more in depth. This one, what you want to do, like it says, specific goal for 1 week, specific goal for 3 months. Like those are those really hardcore, like this is what I want to test, this is what I expect the results to be. Like scientific method style, lay out a hypothesis that's falsifiable so that people can know that you're either hitting that or not. And make sure it is falsifiable. Don't say like, "Oh, I'll have like a mailing list with some people on it." Be like, "No, I'll start a mailing list, and if I do everything according to plan, I think I'll hit at least like 30 people by like this day, like by a month. Like I think I can get 1 person a day for a month to sign up for this mailing list. And, like if you do, like and if you get more than that, great." So that's like the 1 month goal. Same for 3 months. Then like 6 month and 1 year, go a little more general. That's where you're a little more wishy-washy. You're like, "I'd like to be in a position to start thinking about opening up this like grander location like after a year or something, or after 6 months." You're like, "I'd like to have a mailing list where like I'm getting this much feedback back," or like I'd like to have developed some kind of side revenue stream where I'm making at least $1,000 a month somehow. I don't quite know how, that sort of thing. And then this contact list is just who you're going to update and has a little checklist to make sure you're going down those 7 people. So you just lay out the top 7 people who you think can give you time or money or help you, and then at the one contact them. Write down their name when you contact them at the 1 month mark. Contact them again, update them 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. And then the passive gram method, I mean, that's really self-explanatory. I just threw the blank in there because it looks nice. Cool. Well, thanks for the workshop. Thanks for volunteering too for the workshop. Yeah, let's give them a round of applause. And best of luck with the Turkish bathhouse. Dude, it sounds awesome. Like I really wanted to move in, so like sign me up for the mailing list whenever you get that going.